Good day, fellow outcasts and other rejects. Welcome to WTC, the Anime Outcast. First off, if you're new here, we upload anime what-ifs based around My Hero and other shows alike. Secondly, did you know 80% of our audience is not subscribed? So in order for us to continue to make good content, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. The world of My Hero Academia was forever impacted when one day a baby in China was born with a miraculous superpower. Ever since that fateful night, a thick line was drawn between people. Those with powers dubbed as quirks, and those unlucky enough to be quirkless. But what if that line was muddled, and a new third option was born? A generation or two after the emergence of mutant abilities came an in-between. These people contained within them a unique gene that made them distinct from the powerless, yet they lacked the optimized bodies of quirk users. This third group of people was dubbed as kaijin due to their new abilities giving them power to transform their body into monsters based on a multitude of things. One could have formed based on a shark, another a sunflower, and the other a grasshopper. Though each power came with a downside that made the quirk-like ability utterly useless. Aquatic kaijin may only be able to breathe in water, plant-based forms may only be used during the daytime, then the insect kaijin transformations may completely destroy whatever clothes they were wearing. Not to mention the changing process caused kaijin's body to emit a dangerous amount of heat that could injure anyone around them. This left many kaijins ostracized from society, with integration only happening within recent generations of the main timeline. But this is a story about how one boy, riddled with pain of his ancestors, united everyone behind one cause. An eclipse took over the once bright sky as an ebony disk covered the sun. As this spectacle raged overhead, a car sped through a narrow backcountry road, making sharp and dangerous turns on the old forgotten roads as it emerged into an open field with a blackened sky soaking the car in its shade. The passengers inside barely shielded their fragile eyes with thick sunglasses. "We're almost there, I swear," a panicked man yelled as he continued to blitz down the road, the slight of an old building in the distance. Eventually, the beaten vehicle comes to a screeching stop at an old, burnt-out prefab. "An observatory?" a green-haired woman questioned as three individuals left the car. Her eyes locked onto her husband as she cradled a small sick child, but the man didn't return the look as he glared at the run-down structure. "Hisashi, what is this place?" the telekinetic questioned as her whole body was overcome with uneasiness. But the fire breather stayed quiet as he led his wife into a subsection of forgotten building. The observatory was almost built like a maze, with about a dozen empty rooms and corridors. But eventually, the two emerged in what looked like a lab mixed with an operation room. Somehow, everything in the laboratory seemed to be in decent condition despite the aged exterior, with a signal gurney in the middle of the room. The woman's gaze locks onto the holding platform, anger taking over before she glares at her husband. "No! You're a weapon developer, not a doctor!" she cried, tightening her grip on the boy and giving him a cold shoulder to Hisashi. But the pyromancer just sighed as he unbuttoned his waistcoat. "On paper, yes. But there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Why I brought you here. It can save him. It can save our son," explained Hisashi, ripping off plaster to a wound that would never heal. A lump formed in the green-haired woman's throat as she looked down at Izuku, his skin a scarlet red and limbs near lifeless. "Can it wait till he's safe?" Inko questioned through gritted teeth. It pained her to let her lover attempt such a perilous procedure, but if it meant saving her only son, she'd allow it. but the dragon mouth doesn't speak, only nodding as he holds out his arms to take his son.
It's probably best if you wait outside. Things are going to get...
muttered Hisashi as he laid the child on the table, but his wife stopped him by holding up her hand. With a long, deep-rooted sigh, she turned back and left, leaving the man to save his son. But before the older Midoriya started his operation, he fell to his knees as his hands came together and his eyes shut.
Oh, Creation King, please hear my cries. I know what I've done to you, but please, let me use my hands to save someone, not make a monster.
The man prayed to a creature he had wronged in the past, hoping it would save his son from the sickness it brought upon him.
Is this my punishment for my crimes? Why must he pay for them?
The fire breather yelled, causing a stir in the entity he was communing with. The room started to violently shake as the roars of a monster bounced around it. Hisashi jumped to his feet, yelling one more time with his eyes open and veiny.
My son wasn't the one who turned you into an Indian. He's an innocent child, just like the ones you shepherd. Let me bear my own sins, not him.
He pleaded as the rumblings continued, but his cries for help seemed to fall upon deaf ears, causing the scared father to fall to the ground, his eyes closing once again.
Please.
As all becomes still, he opened his eyes. He found two items in his hands. One was a heavily industrialized device attached to a belt, a mess of pipes and dials. The other was a deep crimson gemstone that pulsed with a human-like heartbeat.
The King's Stone and the Century Driver. I see. Sure, it will save Izuku's life, but he'll forever be trapped in the life I gave you. Very well.
The walking flamethrower declared as he got to his feet, the ideal of saving his son finally in sight. The operation was gory, with the older Midoriya needing to cut deep into his son's chest, where he placed the King's Stone inside. Then, as he stitched back up Izuku, he placed the Century Driver on his waist. With an ear-splitting screech, the device jets out a stream as it vanishes from sight.
I'm sorry. My hands were meant to make war, and I've used them to bring you into a conflict you're far too young to understand. Maybe we'll finish it like I couldn't. Or maybe you'll end up like the last Black Sun. Hell, maybe even Shadow Moon.
The man cried as he removed a mask from his son. With a bated breath, Hisashi lifts up the boy and starts carrying him outside. Outside, Iko silently awaits her son and husband to come back to her. She passes the time by watching the outside world, seeing a wave of insects migrate from the field. The black dots scurried across the air, and the woman's eyes locked onto them as if she were in a trance. She barely noticed her once-loved husband hobble out of the facility, their child in his arms. This, however, was all a hazy memory in the head of the teenage Izuku as he was forced awake by the ear-shattering sound of an explosion. His head jolted up, his eyes darting around the classroom he found himself in. But it was a false alarm, just his childhood friend turned bully abusing another child.
I must have dozed off.
The quirkless but not powerless teen muttered to himself. The day he dreamt of wasn't a bad one, despite it being the catalyst for his parents' separation. He mainly remembered the day he suddenly gained his kaijin transformation. His animal form was a black migration locust, which wasn't an impressive transformation. The best Midoriya could muster currently was the thick black skin, antennas of the locust, plus tiny deformed legs on his back. As Katsu continued to harass his classmate, he gained the eye of their teacher as he emerged into the room.
Mr. Bakugo, one more action, there will be serious repercussions. Ones that wouldn't look good if UA came to us for a reference.
The man threatened, causing the blonde Bombarda to take a step back and begrudgingly place his hands in the air. With a nod from his teacher, Katsuki shuffled back to his seat, a few desks behind the one he mocked by calling Deku. As the class proceeded, their gruff and normal boring teacher got excited as he started handing out forms. These simple pieces of paper would decide the path the students take, one of the few chances they had to pursue their dream. As the Locust teen attempted to write his first high school of choice, a booming voice grabbed his attention. "Nerd, heard you only let in like 2 kaijins this year. Still think you have what it takes?" The sweating gremlin shouted from the back of the class, a devilish grin on his face. But Izuku didn't turn back. Instead, he held up a shaking hand with his middle finger. As the school day came to an end, the 2 childhood friends stayed back in class, followed by a few only loyal to the Bombarda. Katsuki sat on the desk before the green-haired teen as he wanted to clarify something. "I was serious about what I said earlier. They really only let 2 kaijin into UA. How the hell are you going to get in with those odds?" The living grenade questioned, with the Black Locust struggling to find an answer. With his gaze locked on the table, Midoriya gave a half-hearted answer.
I just gotta keep training.
The kid kaijin sheepishly muttered as he pulled out a small notebook containing everything about his insect physiology and a grimoire worth information about heroes. But this only angered the blonde Bombarda as he swiped the book off the desk. "Be fucking serious! You can't stay in your real form for more than like 5 minutes! Name 1 hero with a time limit!" shouted Katsuki, jumping onto his feet as the murderous flares ignited in his hands. Even with the threat of violence, Midoriya didn't budge. He just stayed quiet while biting his tongue. An awkward silence filled the room, the only sound being the crackling of the explosions from the live grenade. "How the hell did a weakling freaks like you ever beat me when we were kids?" Bakugo muttered as threats faded, and he fell back onto the table, frustrated at Midoriya for being contemptful of his weakness. But the school day was over, so the teens went their separate ways, except for the 2 UA hopefuls. Due to the high anti-kaijin sentiment around Izuku's area, Mitsuki forced her son to, more or less, escort him, which he did so begrudgingly. This usually leads the 2 down back alleys and quick routes to Midoriya's apartment, and in this instance, a dark, narrow underpass under a road. The blonde Bombarda had found the shortcut on his phone while trying to make the journey as fast as possible to minimize being with his childhood friend. Though as they entered the tunnel, unaware someone was watching them, they sprung a trap. 2 figures appeared at the end of the tunnel, their silhouettes outlined by the blinding light from the exit. The powerless kaijin stopped at the sight of the 2 as a tingling sensation ran down his spine.
That smell!
He muttered as the fragrance of smoke and vanilla clouded his nostrils, a byproduct of a transformation. Panicked, Izuku screamed for his fellow student to stop, but Katsuki kept walking. "Out of my way, nerd!" The blonde Bombarda demanded as the 2 bears became more visible. One wore military-like armor, and the other wore robes as if he was a cultist. Though both men shared one thing in common. A tumorous bulge attacked to the neck. "Out of the way, nerd!" the blonde Bombarda demanded as the 2 barriers became more visible. One wore military-like armor, and the other wore robes as if he was a cultist. Though both men shared one thing in common. A tumorous bulge attached to their necks, painfully ebbed into their skin. Their eyes swirled with a strange liquid as a stench of decay attacked the teen's nose. "Oh, fuck!" blurted out Bakugo as he put his hands together, blasting back a small explosion. With the signs of conflict clear, and the students attempted to run the other way, only for a hulking purple creature to jump down the bridge above them. The ground shook as he landed, causing the two to stop.
How didn't we notice him before?
Stuttered the green-haired boy, clutching his own shoulders as he let his insect DNA take hold. With the steam erupting from under his clothes, his skin hardened, his jaw unhinged, and his legs burst out of his back. Think for once in your useless life! This is clearly an ambush, and the other two haven't shown their quirks. Bakugo retorted as he rolled up his singed sleeves and raised his fist. After they were reading each other's thoughts, the teams switched sides, with Katsuki attempting to fight the purple monster, and Izuku, the other two flesh puppets. The grasshopper, the green-head insect leaped forward, right arm primed back, ready to punch the robed zombie. Before he could strike, thick strands of fabric shot out of the other man, grabbing Izuku and throwing him back. The teen skidded across the dirt ground, only stopping by plunging his hand into the ground. With every second that passed, his body spent more energy sustaining his true form, meaning a blackout was imminent. Attempting to stay on the offensive, the locust lunged forward, evading more bandages by dodging to the left and bouncing off the wall. His target was again the robed cultist, though he is countered as the man's arm was reforged into a blade. The teen insect narrowly weaves under, allowing the mummy villain to ensnare him while he's distracted. With his full body wrapped in crimson bindings, Izuku is repeatedly thrown into the tunnel wall and roof. The impacts kept coming. His vision went black, everything around him changing to an endless flat void. Izuku felt his mind drift, no thoughts or actions, until something spoke to him, reigniting his consciousness. But the teen didn't reawaken in the midst of battle. No. He stayed in the endless darkness as it spoke again. Though the voice didn't speak like a traditional sense, it placed the words directly into Midoriya's mind.
I give you my dead black eyes in hopes you may revive my long dead heart. Don't live this weak, wicked lie. You must take your hate, your rage, and transform what your father gave you. For you are the black sun that will erode this world. Be wary of the shadow cascading against the moon, and the weapon he holds. Unite us. He will deny what it takes when he can't save them.
And as the kid Kaijin comprehended the final word, he ripped from the dark reaches of his mind and poked back to the now. On instinct, he jumps up from the blood-soaked ground and raises his hand, screaming with unfiltered adrenaline. But as the locust teen looked around, the battle had moved outside the tunnel. Rushing to his classmate, Izuku found more people had joined the battle. The heroes Death Arms and Kamai Woods attempted to save Bakugo as he laid unconscious on the back of the Purple Hulk. Quick! He's trying to take the kid! Thanks again to the outcasts and rejects for watching till the end of this video. If this video gets 80 likes in 2 weeks, we'll continue the series. Other than that, if you have any questions about the series or channel, sound off in the comments or feel free to join our Discord. Thank you again.